Hello everyone. Thank you for joining us here today. We, the students of Sarla Anil Modi School of Economics and MIMS Mumbai, started the Economic Justice Conclave in 2019 as an extension of our Business and Economics Fest Ka-Ching, with the aim to bring people together from different sections of society and help address a socio-economic issue at hand. In the past, we have tried to combat the climate crisis and the different aspects of inequalities through the means of webinars, town hall sessions, panel discussions, and even with a national policy challenge, which was submitted to the Government of India each year. This year, under the banner of F.R.E.E.D, which stands for Free Reign of Egalitarian Expression and Discourse, we aspire to look at the modern aspects of this single focal point that we believe creates debate, discourse, and discussion in society: freedom. From discussing the technical aspects of our economy under the garb of financial freedom, to discussing the more simplistic, unapologetic art that artists in our country manifest. Our aim is to truly reimagine a free society. This month, under the theme Unconfined Mind, we want to cover the psychological and emotional aspects of freedom, because at the end of the day, true, unabashed freedom begins in the mind.
We start covering the October theme of the psychological freedom via social outreach. Social outreach under the Economic Justice Conclave is the most important of the four pillars that we propagate. It is the actionable part of our mission of an object of working towards an annual theme to bring about a positive change. Minds is an objective ally in the sense that since their inception in 2011, they've been working towards removing the stigma around mental health via conversations and volunteering, among a plethora of more initiatives that they have. We're honored to host you, Ms. Pragya. Vedika Ramesh, our head of social outreach, will please take over now.
The host for today's session is Pragya Lotha, a clinical psychologist and the program director of Mind's Mumbai chapter. She works with 8 different national and international organizations. Her positions include being a trustee for the Global Society for Digital Psychology and a core team member of the Alzheimer's and Related Disorders Society of India. Having over 100 different international and national publications, we present to you Pragya Lotha. During the session and after, if the participants have any questions, they can send it to me on Zoom personal chat and I'll be asking the same. If you wish your identity to be anonymous, kindly write so in brackets. If not, I'll be mentioning your name. We look forward to an eye-opening session and we ask Ma'am Pragya to proceed with the same.
All right. Thank you so much, Vedika, both the Vedikas and Aryan, for a wonderful introduction to today's webinar. And I think first and foremost, I must begin with saying that it's after really long that I'm seeing so many faces. It's kind of tiring to keep seeing names. So thank you so much for having your videos on. I'm not sure I will get, but through today's presentation and since today's World Mental Health Day, October is the World Mental Health Month, and today is the significant day where we do celebrate it. I didn't want to do something which is on depression, anxiety, stress, isolation, loneliness, etc., etc. And I know the COVID-19 pandemic has been a lot more exhausting, I think, especially for college and university going students, because this is one, sort of batch of students which are almost always underreported when it comes to distress. There is a lot of focus on school going kids. There is a lot of, like, of course, our infamous teenage years, which we always talk about. But I think college students always sort of get a miss of the attention. And today I'm going to try and just kick in some very small reminders for just positive mental health and just an attitude towards mental well-being through this presentation. So I think I'm not going to, put in a lot more time and just quickly take a minute to share my screen. And I just request one of you to give me, to begin with, screen sharing, please. I screen share. If you could just confirm
yes. Yes,
you can.
I can now. Okay, fantastic. All right, so just a quick heads up. Is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes.
Yeah, we can all see your screen.
Okay, lovely. Also, I'm just hoping my best that my voice doesn't crack, but it's just been a lot of talking in the last 1 week. So please pardon me if there is any trouble. Also, fingers crossed on no technical glitches. And I think let's maybe begin. This is usually, a talk that I usually center around calling it either 20 things that mentally strong people do or 20 traits of mentally strong people. And this is one of my most I think it's talks that I've done with graduate batches in the previous 3 to 4 years. And here I am for the take at least something fruitful away from today. One thing that I'm going to just let you all know before we proceed is that I'm going to run my slides through and do, like a little bit of talking from my end from the first 20-25 minutes. But I'd love to keep this session, because usually I do it this way, to keep it more interactive where you can just dart in your questions to me. Please feel free to, sort of put your questions down. I think you're going to probably give it away to Vedika for her to relay them to me. But feel free to ask questions, anything that would relate to mental health. And with this, we begin with today's webinar on the 20 traits of mentally strong people. Sorry, it's run on to the last slide. The first one goes as what's done is done, what's gone is gone. One of life's lessons is to keep moving. It's okay to look back and think of fond memories, but always keep moving forward. This is a quote that always takes me back to Steve Jobs, who said that when you want to make sense of life, you make sense of life by looking backward and connecting the dots. But when you live life only looking forward. It's very essential that as students during the period of the pandemic, there are lots and lots of hurdles that have come our way, not just when it comes to our, I think, mental health, but also in general, livelihood, academics, relationship with parents, friends, and a lot of other things that have affected us in ways that are good and maybe in ways that are also not so good. And this is a reminder to kick in that it's okay if things haven't been great so far. We all have days that are good and we all have days that are not so good. And sometimes it's important to keep moving forward ahead in the journey, even when you see that the journey doesn't really make sense. Eventually, it does. Very, very important. We as humans, just absolutely love our comfort zones. We hug our comfort zones and sit, not so soon, but eventually we realize that soon our negative comfort zones also become very, very tight and sticky with us. We become so used to staying in our negative comfort zones that we start feeling that, okay, I'm not sure how am I going to handle so much of happiness, or I'm not sure if I'm ready for this change. Now, change, as a matter of fact, how it is, it certainly brings a lot of uncertainty, discomfort, and pain also. But Roald Dahl puts it very, very, interestingly that, if you don't believe in magic, you won't find it. And to be able to see the magic happen, one has to come out of their comfort zone. Most often, that's where your magic really lies. As students, as young professionals, I always feel that it's okay to have a certain amount of comfort zone where, yes, we feel safe, we feel secure. We also feel rested and our well-being is maintained. But at some point, I think it's important for us to catapult ourselves to the other side of growth and learning, which eventually happens only once we're willing to step out of our comfort zones. Most importantly, I think we all talk about this, but when it comes to actually putting it into practice, especially for ourselves, we don't really do it. We also have this very common habit of, placing our needs, our desires, our hobbies, and the little things that we like doing at the back burner, thinking that, no, right now is the time to earn, right now is the time to study, right now is the time to, find internships, catch goals, made opportunities. And we're so busy being opportunistic in life that we also forget doing the happy things that we need to keep ourselves going. So it's important to give us this reminder that, no matter what we do, no matter where we are, no matter how important round are happening, they will make sense in totality only when we are our thoughts and our beliefs into action to be able to do things that actually make us happy. It may be something as small as maybe, just like having a cup of coffee all by yourself every day and spending those 20 minutes just with yourself, to meeting your friends, to doing other things, etc., etc. But something that we all need to do essentially in practice as a matter of self-care on a daily basis is to do things when we're happy. Most often we get this reminder only, when things start to fall down in a whirlpool of, you know, um, sadness and confusion and stress, is where we realize that, okay, you know what, I think I need to do something for myself. And this is something that, we sort of all have been pushed to realize, especially in the period of this pandemic. And I think it's not just me, but it's all mental health professionals probably who've been talking about that, how it's so important for us to sort of be able to be comfortable and happy under our own skin as well. Because it was the pandemic and the lockdown that actually pushed us in our own spaces where we didn't have outright access to moving out, to going ahead, meeting our friends, or engaging in all those multiple distractions that we generally did. Of the whole unlock period that we are now going in is a very, very beautiful and important example of how, one can learn to embrace change. I'm sure we all must have here in the room heard that how change is the only constant and it keeps happening, etc., etc. And there's a very beautiful excerpt that I sort of remember reading once, from possible that change will come without pain, because it's also something that involves us grieving a part of us which will not be anymore. And I think this is a very crucial aspect of change, because, of course, we don't really sit on a day-to-day basis, affect us how it has affected us in the past. But we most often engage in a very direct and a very obvious way of thinking that we start fearing change. We only think about the negative, aspect of it, and we feel that things are not going to be great, etc., etc. And I think the last 1.5 years has only shown how resilient we are as people, because we all have been able to embrace the change where, like from our classrooms to we went back into maybe our living rooms or bedrooms, and just in front of this laptop, interacting with one another, but still being able to find a way to interact with one another. This is also a very big change that we all have adapted, and this is what is something that's essential for us to keep doing as we move ahead, that we keep embracing change and we keep, looking at change with an attitude that, okay, let me see what has this got in store for me. And this is possible when we have a growth mindset as opposed to having a closed mindset, where instead of just concluding or already deciding or thinking about that things are just going to be terrible and nothing's going to work out and it's all bad and, this is the end of the world, it's important where we can just see that, like, what can we learn from this? Even if I've not made it, even if I've failed, even if I haven't been able to perform well, what are the things that's, like probably responsible for getting me here? What can I do better? What can drive change for me in the coming time? Where essentially the focus is more on learning lessons and learning that what is it that this change or this situation has taught and left me with as I move ahead. Very importantly, especially I think something that I like to leave with all the students that I interact with is that it's very important that we find our direction. I know that most often the societal battering of thoughts is like, do this, do that, this is correct, this is wrong. But just today morning, we were having a very interesting conversation on decolonizing mental health, where we came to an understanding that I think we as young people need to move a little beyond compartmentalizing things into right and wrong, but start looking at things as being more different. And it's only that fish that go with the flow. And I hope that you are able to find your own direction apart and find yourself alive going ahead in that direction. Young people, as young students, as to be professionals, we all sort of get affected by the competition, and I think agree that there is a part of this systemic way of comparison all cannot sort of do anything about, is that we're just left helpless. But getting into colleges, getting certain jobs, getting certain placements are all a must for us to keep going ahead in life. But one important thing to remember is just what this quote exactly says, that just because other people are succeeding, it doesn't mean that we are failing. And this is something which I like to draw parallels with a very important concept called a psychological asymmetry. It's a beautiful concept that explains that how we as people have access to our own negative thoughts. Like, I mean, today I know that what negative thoughts I have, and I know what kind of dark thoughts or feelings that I may have, and nobody else will know, because I also don't choose to display those feelings to the other people. But when I look at my own dark and negative side, and when I compare it to the other people's positive side, because that's what they represent, I cannot make that comparison and feel bad. And by this understanding, technically every other person would be absolutely depressed. And it's only going to understand that yes, we're bound to feel a little sad and low, because what we're seeing is that we're seeing our negative side, but we're comparing it with somebody's positive side. But if we go to see in the beginning, it's not even a ground of comparison. This is just like, doom scrolling on your Instagram and realizing that, oh my God, everyone's life is so amazing. And look at me in the couch, just doom scrolling. But one must not forget that people only choose to show what they want people to see, and that may not always be the only truth. And when it comes to our own journeys, it's important to be able to have that little inward reflection and see that, okay, maybe I'm not all a failure. There are a lot of things that we all do well as well. So keep the focus on your failure, keep the focus on your success, and be mindful as you compare yourself with other people. And as you also realize your little successes, not necessarily that they have to be huge or something very like award winning, but it's important for us to celebrate the successes that we sort of have to ourselves. Most often, I think, as part of our conditioning, we're taught that if something goes wrong or if there's something that we do wrong, we immediately go to beat ourselves black and blue. We corner ourselves, we criticize ourselves, we're so harsh upon ourselves that, how could I do this? Like, I'm such a stupid person, I'm such an idiot, how could I do this? How could I not do better? Etc., etc., etc. But when was the last time that you actually felt proud about yourself? When was the last time you actually praised yourself or complimented yourself, or probably just, gave yourself a pat on the back that, whoa, I did this. And I'm really happy that I did this, or I'm proud that I did this. Even if it means that, we were able to sort of have a decent lockdown routine. Say suppose tomorrow morning you were able to wake up at the time that you wanted to. And it's not always necessary that we have to tangibly celebrate our success. Like I said, that it can sometimes just be a tap on your back, or it can just be maybe saying to yourself that, wow, I'm really happy I could do this, or I'm so proud of myself. So I hope that, I think at least in the coming times, it's important we do this, because this is a part of our narrative. Something that I will also speak about in the coming slide, that it's so important the way you ourselves. So I hope that you certain critics about yourself, you do find moments to celebrate your successes and strengths as well. This is a very common question that young students or young to be professionals ask, that what is it that we really do for success? Like, I'm studying well, I'm doing well, I'm applying for internships and catching up on all the possible job opportunities, doing my best and everything. But usually when students talk about these things, I always sense that there is a lot of fear and anxiety that's around it. And something that's missing is that belief, the belief in self. And this is what I think demarcates successful people. It's because they're always thinking about their success, because they always feel that they deserve the success that they want and they need. And it's very important that we inculcate this attitude, we inculcate this idea that yes, like, success does not always mean a lot of money or a lot of glam or a lot of fame or being in the newspapers or whatever, etc. The mainstream idea of success is your own journey can have your own benchmarks of success. Like, for example, like, I wasn't able to get a job in the last 8 months, but I got a job. Even if it doesn't pay me like a like great salary, it's fine, but at least I got towards getting that job. That also is success. Something even small as like, we were talking about routines. We can also be that, okay, I haven't been able to speak to my friends in a very long time, but I made time in my timetable to sort of fit in that time and where I could speak to my friends. That's also success. Sometimes I think it's more about derailing our fear and anxiety and investing it a lot more into the belief in ourselves that yes, I can try, yes, I want to try, and I can do this. Sorry about the I'm sure you all must have come through this quote, somewhere on Instagram, Facebook, or some other social media platform that you use. And I think it's so important. I hope you all take a reflection and really see that even if you've probably hit a like button on this quote, or probably, this is something that you've shared with your friends, I hope you actually do it for yourselves. And more than I think ever, the COVID pandemic time has been such an important time because so many people have had this kind of time to just sit and self-reflect with themselves as to what are the things that they really enjoy about themselves, what are the things that they don't enjoy about themselves, but it's still okay because it's still a part of you. It's important that we do appreciate and reward ourselves to be the way how we are, because we're always work in progress. There is no, I think, end to us achieving growth. There is no end to us achieving a betterment, because these are things that just keep evolving with time. And it's important that once we're able to really sort of experience the kind of relationships, the success at our workplace, being at college, everything in life, I think, becomes a lot more real and a lot more fun once we're able to actually identify and live it the way how we want to, rather than masquerading it by being someone else. And something that I always, tell young people that just imagine that, if you were to sort of have a meeting or a conversation with an older version of yourself, what would that older version of yourself tell you right now? Maybe you can actually think about this question at a later point as well, but it's so important that we learn how to just let ourselves be the way how we are, so that we're able to become a better version of ourselves and not of someone else necessarily. Because you're bad at one thing doesn't mean you are bad at everything. Don't focus on your weaknesses. I think this is something that I see very, very commonly in my practice, where people always think of the worst possibility. People always think of what's bad that's going to happen. The negative is going to happen and it's not going to work out and it's going to be terrible. But I think we don't realize that that's just one half of the possibility, because we're only, stuck to thinking about what's the worst that's going to happen. But the other half of the opportunity is also that what's the best that's going to happen. So it's important that we do allow that alternative to also step in, because it is very much 50% of the possibility. If there is a 50% chance that yes, things are not going to go good and it's going to be bad, there is still a 50% chance that yes, things can go well as well. And this is where I think I wanted to sort of also put in the fact that usually I do understand that it is difficult for us as people to think of the positive immediately, especially when we're looking it from evolutionary view. Humans tend to think negative because it's also protective in nature. Something that I also work with my humans, even if we're being negative, acting negative.
Hello.
Hi, Vedika, I can hear you.
Yeah. So actually, I think it's been lagging a bit for a while. Is it possible to shift to an alternate network? If not,
what I can do is I can maybe stop my video for a while.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing it to my notice, and apologies on that. So yes, just want to check before I continue. Is this any better than before?
Yes, it is.
Okay, lovely. So I was saying that I do understand that yes, a lot of people I think act negative and believe in the negative very easily because it also serves an evolutionary purpose. Something that I work with also as part of clinic work is the fact where I help people understand that every negative action and every negative thought has a positive intention. We're basically wanting to do something positive, we're wanting to do something good, but we're not able to do it because probably there's a very strong negative belief that comes in, or a very strong negative action that we're just expecting to also sort of come. And in such scenarios, that think about the scenario that, say, suppose your best friend or someone you really, really love or someone you really find very close to you was in the same situation that you were in. What would you tell them? For us as humans, it's easier to think from a third person perspective when we put someone else in that situation. So if it helps, maybe you may want to zoom out for a bit from your situation, look at it from a third person's perspective and see what you can do better. Very important, and one of, I think, the most cliche conversations among the young adult group is to constantly love yourself. And I think this is something which I do see on the brighter side of my practice, that yes, I do see a lot of young adults having this kind of understanding, but on the same side, there are also those group of people who do find it very difficult to love themselves. And most often the question comes that I don't know, like, if I should do this, I feel guilty, I'm not, like very comfortable doing so, because it's also something that comes from our conditioning. We're never taught to love ourselves, we're never taught to reward or celebrate ourselves. Messages that we usually get from society are more like, like, what will people say, be careful about, like, like what kind of remarks you will get, make other people happy, take care of their happiness, derive your happiness from other people's happiness, etc., etc. And I do understand, and a part of human understanding is also this, that yes, we as humans do derive a lot of happiness when we make our loved ones happy. The only difference that I ask people to make is that in that bunch of people who want to make happy, just add yourself to be the first one. Because when we start and when we learn to love ourselves first, I think loving others, helping others comes a lot more effortlessly. Because most people, it comes at a cost of displeasing ourselves. So I hope that we get the message right, and it makes more sense that why do we put so much of emphasis on loving ourselves first. And despite, I think, like, we always say that in life, like, it's not important whether you come out swinging or whether you come out whether you come out winning or whether you come out losing, but it's important that you come out swinging. Are going to have a share of negative experiences, which will sort of leave us feeling sad, sorrowful, and we will feel a little bit of that pain as well. And that's important, to not brood and ruminate and let guilt and regret grow. Because if they are going to be the only emotions, there's going to be no space for love that is to come our way to even have space and be with us. This is one of my favorite quotes, which I think I used to always detest this understanding with my mom earlier. But I think I've grown to sort of also believe in it, that it is true that what's meant to be will always find its way. I think when things don't go our way, when things don't, meet our expectations, we feel extremely disheartened. And I think it's important that we as young adults also fill ourselves with this resilience where we are able to believe in the fact that if something is not happening, maybe it's fine. Maybe if one door closes, it's okay. We will have a lot of other doors to look at. A very, very essential part of our interpersonal relationships, our interpersonal relationships with friends, family, romantic partners, colleagues, etc. They're very important because our interpersonal relationships directly affect our mental health and our ability to sort of experience mental well-being. And when we have mental health and better mental well-being, we're also able to experience good interpersonal relationships. So it's very important to keep this in mind, because this is one challenge that I do see very commonly, not just in young adults, but also in adults. So it's good if we can actually look at it in this way, that most often and always we are responsible only for what we say, not for what other people understand. There will always be a difference in perception. There will always be a difference in the way how people view things and understand things. And our job is to place our understanding and our perspective on the table, not force it down anybody, not, sort of assert ourselves on anybody. A lot of times, when things don't work the way, people always say that, yes, but I tried making this person understand so much, but they just don't get it. And yes, there is a possibility that they will not get it because maybe they are not looking at it from the way how you are looking at it, and that's fine. Especially a lot of times, I think this is an issue that happens between friends, between also, I think, our parents, where the generation gap is there and the understanding gap automatically comes in. So remember that you are responsible for what you say. You're not obligated to always justify what you are saying or what your intention is. This is one of my evergreen favorite quotes that I always leave with, my postgraduate batch. That if you expect the world to be fair with you because you are fair, you're fooling yourself. That's like expecting the lion not to eat you because you didn't eat him. This is more of, I think, moving ahead in life quote, but I think it's very important for us as young adults to also sort of have an understanding of this, because it helps us build resilience and acceptance that, yes, that people around us are not going to always meet our expectations. People around us after college are not always going to take care of us the way how we were taken care of in college. And it is going to be a little challenging. And of course, I think it's important for us to experience setbacks also, because they are the best teachers that tell us and that grow us the wisdom for the future as well. And this is exactly what helps us sort of move ahead, is where we don't fear the coming time and we don't fear failure. It's very important to sort of just have acceptance and understanding that We do our best. We do our best with the thought that, yes, this is what I'm doing and this is the best I can do. It's difficult. It certainly is difficult. And we must allow ourselves to experience the sorrow of failure. But like, we said in the beginning that what's done is done. We sort of go ahead. We take the learning and we move ahead. Most of the problems in life are because of two reasons. Either we act without thinking, we are more mindless, or we engage in overthinking where we're only thinking and not acting at all. It's important that we get this balance where we are able to sort of realize that, okay, yes, this is what I think, this is what I anticipate, there is a possibility, and now I must at least go ahead and try and put in the effort. And until and unless you won't put it in action, until unless you won't do it, you'll never know what it's actually going to be like. Absolutely important, and something that I would pay like a 10 times more emphasis, that always, always, always accept the help you get. If help is around, take it. Ask for help if you need it. Help is always around. And I think a lot of times, for various reasons, we shy away because of either embarrassment or just shyness, or just, guilt that, oh my God, like I need help, or I will have to ask for help. I think it's absolutely fine to do so. We all need each other's help in some capacity or the other, and help is available. And I think the best that you can do is the best that you can also do to respect the help that is available is to accept it and to seek for it. Lastly, and I think something that you all must have heard all your life, that very important that we don't give up on ourselves. Most often, I think as we grow older, it is something that we see that, that our capacity or our ability to sort of keep up with failure reduces. But I think this is where our attitude and perception really plays a very big role. If we look at if we look at setbacks as opportunities to learn, grow, and do things differently and better in the time, they also become opportunities. Sometimes we're only, like that one notch away, and we just sort of come all the way down. So make sure that you don't give up. If you need help, if you need support, if you want to take a pause and rest, absolutely fine. Sorry, this just keeps going back to. Lastly, I think something which is extremely important, I think more than ever, especially during the times that we are in, is to be able to practice self-compassion. Theorists and researchers in compassion have left with us the fact that being compassionate towards others is impossible without being compassionate to yourself. So about you, their opinions aren't your problems. You stay kind, committed to love, and free in your authenticity. No matter what they do or say, don't doubt your worth or the beauty of your truth. Just keep shining like you always do. And most importantly, if you get tired, you learn to rest, not quit. We all as people need that time of self-reflection. And I always encourage it in people that before you hit that burnout, always practice this. And I think this is something I learned from my mentors, and I thank them that being a mental health professional, sometimes it can be really tough. But I think my secret to not hitting burnout till date has been the fact that I've always respected if my body wanted to rest or if my mind wanted to rest. And that is the only thing that has allowed me to keep going ahead and will hopefully keep helping me to go ahead in the future as well. So this, I think I would leave you all with this message with a very, very personal touch, that this is something which is extremely close to heart, and we all need to learn to, I think, appreciate this, because in a hustle culture that we are today, we don't respect ourselves. We don't respect that the fact that we need to take a break. And unfortunately, it ends us, either falling terribly sick or reaching at a point where we just burn out completely and are not able to function. So before you head there, pause and rest. With this, I end this presentation and this interaction. And I look forward if there are any questions or comments. I'm just going to stop the screen share as of now and maybe come on video.
Hi. So we received a bunch of questions. I'll be asking them if that's fine with you.
Yes, I think we can take time till 4:10, 4:15 for sure. So that should be comfortable.
Sure. Okay. So the first one was, how do I realize my mental health is deteriorating?
Right. I think a couple of ways how you can realize that your mental health is affected and in a negative way is the fact that when it becomes difficult to keep going on a day-to-day basis, in the sense that doing the chores that we generally do, it becomes tough and challenging for us to continue that way. It becomes difficult for us to sort of, interact with people and let them know or confide in them. We usually prefer to be in our own space. We don't want to talk about our negative thoughts and feelings because we feel that, no, like, I don't know, what will he think about me? What will she say about me? She's always known me to be like this. She's always known me to be like that. Third, a very simple marker, you will observe certain changes in yourself where you will feel like, and the conversation the monologue basically in your head is more like, I never used to be like this before, but nowadays I find myself this way. Most often, if this is something which is not problematic, you will identify the plausible factors for it. That, okay, for example, I'm traveling and the weather is not really suiting me, so I think I find myself a little uncomfortable. That is different. But when visibly the environment is the same, nothing has significantly changed in your life, or there hasn't been a negative stressor, but you still experience that, okay, like, this is happening, that should be a marker. Fourth, a very common marker is that your eating and your sleeping gets disrupted in some way or the other. So this can be a very strong tell sign that, yes, something may not be okay. And lastly, I would say that you can also figure out if journaling is something that you would like to do. I think this is one potent way. And I think ever since my practice, this is the first time in the last almost, I think, 8 to 9 months where people have said that there have been people who never picked up a pen in the last 10 years, but actually started journaling, and they started realizing that when we journal, we actually put our thoughts. Now, we as humans have somewhere about 70,000 thoughts in a day, and how hard it is to keep a tab on everything. But when you sit to journal, the idea is that those thoughts actually come alive. And when you can see them right there, you realize that, yes, probably this is something that's causing me a worry. It's a beautiful self-reflective way to figure out what could possibly be going wrong. So these could be some very, very evident ways how you can realize that your mental health is deteriorating.
Thank you so much. Right. So the next question is, you mentioned that we should always love ourselves and focus on our strengths, but that sometimes leads us in a negative direction where we don't work on improving ourselves in areas where we aren't good. So how do we deal with this situation?
Right. This would also mean that, of course, like, I think sometimes this also comes from the fact where societally we're always put to work hard, be hard on ourselves to become better, because mehnat nahi kiya, ya fir, it's like, I always tell, like, it's like in today's time, and generally also, it's not always hard work that pays off, it's smart work. Apart from, I think, yourself, it's also important that you do this kind of self-reflection with yourself. And most, or I should have started off this, or maybe I could have done this better, but I still don't do it. And I think that is something where it just comes out of the willingness that, am I willing to work on myself or not? And it's about a matter of starting as well. So I think the best thing is that if you already realize that, yes, this is something that you should have or you could have done differently, then I think it's all about translating that thought into action and seeing where you get. I hope that sort of addresses the question.
Yes, thank you. So the next one is, how do I stop picking hobbies that look good on my resume and start picking hobbies that make me feel happy?
By actually doing it. Because clearly hobbies that make us happy are not the ones that are supposed to be on our resume anyway. I understand that nowadays in a world where everything is so corporate and competitive, we all want our CVs to look absolutely fancy and amazing. And I mean, I think I would say like something that I've learned with my own journey, that when I reflect back in the last almost 10 years of like life, I realized that I did those things that gave me happiness. Even when it comes to, I think, work, I know like it's not always necessary to love your work absolutely and be passionate about it. It's not. Sometimes I think you just work because you have to work or you want to work as well. But I think it is definitely essential that we're doing things to keep ourselves happy as well, which means that for example, no matter how much work we do, it is important to take that break. And I think I do see that I think the imposter phenomenon has been so strongly surfacing in the last 1.5 years. And I say this and I make this comparison because I have actually seen this a lot more in the last 1.5 years, is the fact that no matter how much we do, we feel it's never enough. But the fact is also that no matter how much we do, it will never be enough because there is so much to do, right? So I think this comes with a very conscious reflection and a very conscious action dedicated in the line that okay, ठीक है, मतलब मुझे इतना काम करना था, मैंने कर लिया है, मुझे इतना achieve करना था, मैंने कर लिया है. Like, we want to do like certificate courses and everything. And I think I always encourage youngsters to think about that. What's the purpose of doing this? Something that came as a very, I think, candid and very important conversation in the last year was that the pandemic was not to like, build your productivity levels. It was a pandemic. You technically had to be home because you had to be home to take care of yourself and to, sort of uh, ensure that other people's safety is also maintained. So the thing is that if I'm, say, suppose if I've done 10 certificate courses and I'm still not happy with it, so what's going to make me happy? If I'm doing these 10 certificate courses, like what value is it adding to my persona, to my professional persona as well? Do I learn something from it, or do I just want to show the certificate that, oh, hey, this is what I've done? And I think it's important because at the end of it, honestly, like nobody cares about how much certification you have. At the end of it, when you're going to be out there working, it's going to be your skill set. It's going to be the way how you interact with people. It's going to be the way how you do your work. So be mindful about selecting what you are doing, because I think this is how we also create meaningful lives, right? So I think, yeah, that would just be a giveaway, an extra giveaway, I think, to the question that was put across.
The next question is by Anav Mangla. What are some of the small steps to improve your self-worth?
Small steps to improve your self-worth. That's what you said, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. The first thing I think, which I think I will also encourage you all to probably go and see, is Brené Brown's talk. She is a sociologist who also went ahead to sort of do, I think she studied counseling or therapy, if I'm not wrong. And she is a researcher who's worked in the area of guilt, shame, and vulnerability for the last 25 odd years. And this is where I think the essence of self-worth and self-love lies, is that are we able to accept our vulnerability? Most often, we're so scared of, like being vulnerable. And I'll tell you, I think largely my clientele, at least 75 to 80% of the people I see in therapy are young people. And I hear, like vulnerability has actually become like a buzzword. Everyone's shooting it and darting it in the air here and there because it sounds fancy. And, like it doesn't take time for things to become a fad in the younger bracket of age. But I think I always question people that, yes, you talk about this and tell me, how do you experience it? And then it's like, who experiences? I mean, like, it's weakness, it's bad. Like, I can't be vulnerable. Like, it sucks to be vulnerable. This is what I hear. And it's important that we delve deeper into it, because vulnerability is something that makes us who we are. It's the core essence of being human. Brené Brown also talks about this, where she says that if we learn to accept our vulnerability, initially it feels like I'm so exposed, I'm vulnerable, I'm weak, people are going to look down upon me. But when we come to the acceptance, the fight is actually over. It's only till we accept, we keep thinking that, oh my God, I don't know what is the other person going to think of me. I'm going to be a horrible person. But when we accept it, the fight is over. And that space then becomes your source of joy, strength, courage, and love as well. So I think the most important, small yet difficult step towards self worth is that of accepting vulnerability. Second is also, you can reach this by understanding yourselves. How many of you all, like, y'all are about like some 160 people here. How many of y'all actually sit with yourself sometimes doing absolutely nothing, but just reflecting about how are things going in life? What am I doing? What am I headed towards? Do I know what kind of degree am I doing? Do I know what I want to do? And it's okay. I'm not saying that you should have like a future plan of what you want to do in the next 10 years of life. But it's just about, connecting the dots. Third, the acknowledgement of our strengths as well as our weaknesses. I think we're so busy trying to achieve perfection. Something that I also spoke about back in 2018 called as millennial burnout. That we all are in this hustle of achieving perfection where, I want to study, I want to have a job, I want to earn, I want internship, I want social work, I want certification, I want to do great with my family, everything. But we don't realize that it burns us out. There's only this much that we can do at a particular time. And that's why I say that be mindful of what you want to do and why you want to do what you want to do. And it's okay to become aware of your strengths and weaknesses, because like I said, that till we don't come to terms with something, we're always evading it. But the moment we come to terms with it, we exactly know that acha theek hai, matlab abhi ye problem hai, now what do I do next? How can I do things differently? And the last thing that I would just say is that, just add this reflection in your life, that, what do you want to do? Yes, these are some small steps that I would probably leave you.
Right. Thank you. Yes. So it was from Rajat Mehta. The question was, how do you identify when you are sitting in your comfort zone, since it might sometimes get ambiguous?
Right. I think that's a good question. And it is very possible. And I think I would come back to saying that self reflection is one of the absolute go tos for multiple things that you can achieve with. Secondly, also, I think being mindful, in the sense that a lot of times I think we're just passively doing things, and we're hardly aware and hardly mindful of what we are doing and why we're doing. So I think coming back to the similar questioning pattern which we have been talking and addressing in the last two questions is something that has a overhauling effect on the way how we are headed towards things. Sometimes I think just talking with your friend and becoming conscious about the fact that how do I want to move ahead? What do I want to do differently? Is there something that I'm missing out? Are questions that we can discuss with like family, friends, close ones, to sort of also gain their perspective and see that, what is it that we may want to do differently. So this would be a good way. And I think doing this more on a regular basis, even if it means that we do it like once in a couple of weeks, it's a good way of sort of building that in habit. And once it's built in habit, it doesn't take a lot of effort.
Right. So the next question is, it's very easy to lose track of the good in you sometimes, and all you can focus on is everything wrong with your attitude, your body, and yourself in general. How does one reinforce self-appreciation when it feels like nothing is good about themselves? We can't hear you yet.
negativity, sadness, anxiety, stress in general as well. And these are
we couldn't hear you since the beginning of your answer. Would it be possible to repeat it?
Am I audible now?
Ma'am, it's lagging a bit. You could turn your video off and speak if you would like.
Am I audible now, Vedika?
Yeah, it's clear.
Is this any better?
Yeah, it's much better.
Okay. All right. So, Vedika, should I repeat the answer for the last question?
Yes.
Okay. So, I think it is something that can happen that, we may not be very aware of our comfort zones, and we can very easily slip into one. And one can work with just, I think, conscious self-reflection. And that's one of the best ways of, I think, sort of going about yourself. Once you have better understand and address bills that you may want to work with. So that could be one way of going ahead with it. And this is something that should be done initially more consciously, more intermittently, say suppose once in a couple of weeks, till it becomes a habit. And once it becomes a habit, it comes more naturally. Speaking to friends, family, or close and trusted people is also one way of sort of just, using them and helping them as a sounding board to understand about your own self as well. Talking to people who are close to you and who know you also will give a decent and a fair idea to you as to, like who you people view you, verifiable things that you want to do. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I think we'll proceed with the vote of thanks. From a lot of the questions that we received, we couldn't go ahead with answering them as of now, but we'll be sending them separately. If anyone has any more questions, you can send it to me either right now on Zoom personal chat, or I'll be dropping my mail ID. You can send it there as well, and I'll be getting back to you with the answer. I'll hand it over to Muskan now for the vote of thanks.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'd like to thank you for being here with us today. And we'd also like to thank ma'am for a wonderfully insightful session. We hope that you all enjoyed and benefited from this session. And will continue to join us in the further sessions that we'll be conducting through the months. And once again, a massive thank you from our end, and see you in the next session. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.